Hello and welcome to Deep Sea. This is the channel for innovative cartomancy and astrology. Today I will be looking at the asteroids of the painter Frida Kahlo, famous Mexican painter. She was married to another Mexican painter, Diego Rivera. I will look at their marriage. I will of course take a look at the incident that pretty much defined the life of Frida Kahlo. She had a terrible bus accident, or a traffic accident I should say, and this broke her body, so to speak. And it also started a clock ticking, like how many years she would have left after this accident. And I will try to reduce all this this whole story to one asteroid, to keep it simple for people who don't know a lot about asteroids. And finally, I will also take a look at the relationship between Frida Kahlo and Madonna, which I think is quite interesting. So that's the idea for this video, and I've done 3 previous videos in a similar style. You might not know a lot about asteroid astrology. In that case, it might be useful for you to also check out the first video I did in this series, and that is about Carl Jung and the Red Book. And that episode also gives you a kind of a general overview of how I approach asteroid astrology. So if this video goes too fast for you and you still want to know what I'm talking about, I advise you to check out the video on Carl Jung and the Red Book. Right now I will start with the same procedure, I would almost say, the same chart, which has name asteroids in them, and these are quite easy to interpret because the interpretation is very literal. So I will start now with name asteroids in the birth chart of Frida Kahlo. Okay, you're looking at the birth chart of Frida Kahlo. She was born on the 6th of July in 1907. And the birth time is 8:30 in the morning. And for reasons that I will show you later, I think that this birth time is accurate. I will show that with some asteroids that are on the ascendant and on the midheaven. First, before we get into these various colored asteroids that are all names of people or places, first I want to say something about the characteristics of this chart in general. Because, as you may have guessed by now, I'm really into asteroids. I think they have a lot of stuff that planets cannot give us. But sometimes in some charts, the planets are more important than any asteroids, and that happens in charts where you have a lot of conjunctions between planets, and this is definitely one of those. Because if you look at the conjunctions of the planets in Frida Kahlo's birth chart, with a little bit of poetic license here and there, you could say that the whole story is there in just looking at those conjunctions. For example, we have here the Sun, and the Sun is conjunct Neptune. Now, if you this is not the easiest conjunction to interpret, but first thing that comes to mind for me is a journey of self-discovery through art, and also more in general the need to find your own persona, your ego, because the Sun is of course very different from Neptune in its meaning. Sun is about the core of someone's being, and Neptune is about a very fuzzy and a deeper realm that has not so much to do with the ego. It's more about the dissolving of the ego. So these two make it that you go on a search for who you are. And that might be through art, like the the self-portraits that Frida Kahlo made. I think that is very strong there. And well, Jupiter is of course in the neighborhood. I would not call this a conjunction. Some people would. That's fine with me. I have no problem with that at all. You see also the north node here close to Jupiter. I will not go into this one, although you could say that this says that Frida would become more famous in the future. You can easily combine that with these two here. More interesting, in my opinion, is the conjunction of Pluto and Venus. And that is really a bomb. The first thing you think about is very deep, very intimate relationships that with a need to, as the Plutonians have this need to melt into their lover, so to speak. And this was very much the case with Frida Kahlo and her relationship with Diego Rivera. I think the nature of their relationship, you should read some of Frida Kahlo's love letters or hear about her, all the drama that went on in that relationship. It was the most important thing for her, and at the same time, Diego was a danger to her health. Even when the relationship wasn't going good, it would really affect Frida Kahlo. You can see all that in this conjunction, but you can also, that is the point of why I use asteroids. You can also say something completely different about this conjunction. You can also say that Frida was a revolutionary, that she loved revolution, love, Venus, revolution, Pluto, someone who loved, she was into communism and so on. You could even say that this conjunction points to a revolutionary artist, if you look more at the artistic aspect of Venus. So all that is potentially in these conjunctions. And then there's one more, and that really points, in my opinion, to the accident that defined so much of Frida Kahlo's life. These Uranus and Mars are 2.5 degrees apart, and Uranus and Mars, if you had to think of a planetary conjunction that defines the moment of the traffic accident that Frida Kahlo is in, then this is it. So a lot of information just from looking at conjunctions in this chart. It's hits you immediately if you have experience looking at birth charts. This one hits you immediately as something special. Now, if we start with asteroids, easy in a simple way. I always like to introduce the idea of asteroids with name asteroids. And if you look here, we have Frida Kahlo, so a asteroid named after Frida Kahlo, and it's doing some stuff. It is not like saying everything about Frida Kahlo, not at all. It is trining Uranus, and it's making some other aspects, but this is not one thing you have to realize when you work with asteroids, is that they travel in groups, and every green asteroid that you see here, Friden, that sounds like Frida, Freyja sounds like Frida, Fridolin sounds a bit like Frida, Fridlund, Frida, and Fridan. They all, if you, you don't get this from looking at just one chart, but if you look at several charts that are important for the life of Frida Kahlo, you will see a pattern that all these Fridas, all these green asteroids, they seem to conspire to tell a story about Frida. It's a very strange thing that is really typical for asteroid astrology. Now, the other colors, blue is the family of Frida, Wilhelmina here and Wilhelm, and Guillaume, which is the French version of Wilhelm, but also sounding like the Spanish version, Guillermo. Wilhelm and Guillermo point to Frida Kahlo's father. Mathilde points to her mother. Christian and Christine and Christa here point to her sister, and we will see that there is something important going on when Frida gets married to Diego. Here is Diego, and Riviera, it is not exactly spelled correct, but Riviera points to Diego Rivera. A few more I point out. Stalingrad, you might think, what the hell does Stalingrad have to do with an artist living in Mexico City? Well, Frida was, like I said, she was a rebel, a revolutionary, and she was into communism. And Stalingrad is the closest thing you get to Stalin. And Frida, well, maybe not that, well, let's not say anything about how realistic that idea was to hope that Stalin would bring good things. But anyway, Stalingrad is the closest you get to Stalin, because usually politicians don't get their own asteroids. Artists can get asteroids. Astronomers get maybe 50% of all asteroids get named after astronomers, but politicians not so much. And we see here Karl Marx. He's not a politician, he's a thinker, and Karl Marx is also pointing to socialism and communism in general, so in that sense important. A few more here is Louvre, right in that Uranus-Mars conjunction, and the Louvre is the museum in France, in Paris, that was actually the museum, that the first European museum, I should say, that bought work of Frida Kahlo, so that was very important to her. You can see that, you know, in the conjunction with Mars, that it was like a very strategic moment for her, so to speak, in conquering the world of art. Georgia, I combined that with O'Keeffe to get the artist Georgia O'Keeffe. I was just interested in if I would find anything, because these two, Frida and Georgia O'Keeffe, were friends, and there are also some similarities in the, you know, the maybe the feminist angle, I should say, because I mean they don't paint in the same style, not at all, but still they met and they really liked each other, and had a similar look at the position of a female artist, probably. And then finally Madonna, another great female artist, and there are three asteroids. Ciccone is a very recent, I think maybe a year or so ago, Madonna got her own asteroid, and that is this one here. It is not doing anything in this chart, and there are two more asteroids that can point to Madonna that I've identified. There might be more, but these two I'm sure of that they work. One is Madola. It sounds terrible, but it works. And then we have Ciccone, which is, if you see, it has the same letters as Ciccone, but the E and the I have changed, swapped their position, so to speak. And this is quite interesting, because Ciccone is conjunct the North Node, and we had in the previous video we had an exactly similar situation with Vincent van Gogh and Leonard Nimoy, if you remember. Leonard Nimoy, also known as Dr. Spock, was exactly on the North Node of Vincent van Gogh. And in this case of Leonard Nimoy, there was a very good reason, because he had written a play about the life of Vincent van Gogh. And in this case, we get a similar idea that Cecconi, well, let's say Madonna, keeps the fire burning for Frida Kahlo, so to speak. I would put it like that. And I think it's remarkable that this is made so clear, that there is such a clear message here. So definitely something to check out some more, and I will do that at the end of the video. What you're looking at here is again the birth chart of Frida Kahlo, but this time with a lot more asteroids on it, and a few names are left, but this is mostly other stuff. And what I've done is I've looked at a planet, and then once I have the position of the planet, I dig deeper. I use the microscope, so to speak. So I zoom in on, for example, here the Sun, and I see which asteroids are conjunct the Sun or Neptune here. And well, there's an awful lot of them. I don't want to scare you, so I'm not going to tell you what each and every one of those means. I will tell you in advance what the colors mean. The red color, like here, this one, Dryope, Silentium, the red ones are all in some way, shape or form connected to the incident, the traffic accident. And these purpley pinkish ones these are more like sexual energy, Pan, Siva, Cupido. There's quite a lot of that in Frida's chart. The blue color, let me see, what was that? Hidalgo, yeah. That is more referring to the kind of energy that you need to recover from a horrible accident and then become a very strong woman. You need a certain amount of willpower, stamina, and so on, all those types of things in order to just keep going. So those asteroids that are typical for that have a blue color. But let me start the same way I always start. Is what I try to do is first I go to the Sun, and then I try to find one asteroid, just one asteroid that tells the whole story. This is not always possible, but if you look very, very carefully, you will find that it's in a lot of cases that it's possible to do this. Looking specifically at the Sun. And I will just quickly give you some idea. This is the fourth video I've done, and in the first video I was looking at Carl Jung, and I found that his most important asteroid was Vesta. After that I looked at Eva Braun, the mistress, and later on the spouse of Adolf Hitler. And in her case, the most important asteroid was Artemis, the goddess of the hunt. And then in the third episode that I did in this way, I looked at Vincent van Gogh, and I found that a asteroid pointing to Caravaggio, a Baroque painter from Italy, was the most important asteroid for Vincent van Gogh because of the similarity between the lives of Caravaggio and Vincent van Gogh. So sometimes there's a deity and sometimes there's something else going on. And in this case, if you look at the Sun and you look at deities, there is one here actually, Pan. And I think Pan is, it is I called him last time the horny little devil. Pan is about nature and about a very strong sexual energy, and well, you can see some of that in the photos of Frida Kahlo, but you see it even more, or you get the idea even more if you hear how she was and how she behaved and so on. But personally speaking, I don't think that this really defines her as much as another asteroid, and that is Dryope. Now that is not a very famous deity or something like that, not at all. Who is Dryope? Well, there are several people in the antique world, in the ancient Greco-Roman world who had this name. But this specifically points to a story as it was told by Ovid in his Metamorphoses. And put it really simple, it is about a woman who turns into a tree. So she's walking through some nice part of nature, picks a flower, but she doesn't know that the flower she picks is actually I think a nymph or some person who was turned into a flower by a god. And because she picks this flower, the curse is more or less turned on Dryope. And what happens is she picks this flower and her feet become roots. She slowly becomes a tree. The whole process takes a few minutes maybe, and the wood is still warm for a couple of minutes after she slowly becomes stiff and wooden. And then she says a few last things like take good care of my child, and then she has turned into a tree and nothing more than a tree. And so that stands for a process of becoming more rigid and lifeless, something like that. And I think it captures the essence of Frida Kahlo's life in the sense that she was completely, how shall we say, her life turned around completely after the traffic accident that she had. Asteroids that have a sense of breaking are very much in the chart of this accident. Something breaks in her, a lot of bones break, but that's not the only thing. It's not just that these bones get broken. It is also very much so that a clock starts ticking. Her health she has serious health problems that never go away. She has many operations. She always has to return to the hospital, and slowly things get worse, and that is like this process of slowly turning into something rigid that cannot move anymore. So Dryope, as far as I'm concerned, this is the single most important asteroid in the whole birth chart of Frida Kahlo. And everything else, you could say, is nice to know, interesting to know, but this is the one that defines her. Like I said, it's quite a bit of sexual energy here with Siwa, Casanova, and Pan. And here Cupido. There's more stuff going on. Vibilia, very short, is an asteroid that is about having to make a long journey, a long transformative journey. Let's see what else. At first, before I found the asteroid Dryope, because I really had to find it. It's not that I saw it and thought, boom, there you got it, it's done. No, I really had to search for it in a Sherlock Holmes kind of way. And before I found it, I was under the impression that this one here, Freyja, would turn out to be the most important asteroid in this chart, because Freyja, on the one hand, it sounds like Frida, so it is a bit of a name asteroid, but it is also a deity from the Norse tradition, very important goddess, and you could say that Freyja, if you make the simplest possible description of it, is that she is both a lover and a fighter, and I think that's very accurate for Frida Kahlo. I cannot say a lot more about this asteroid, but this dichotomy between a goddess of love and a goddess of war, so let's say the combination of Venus and Mars, is what you will find out about Freyja, and well, in combination with Pluto, there's just more dynamite, you could say. I'm not going to go into all these. Here's the moon. Oops. have to excuse me because Asteroid Astrology is really nice, but the software that we have to work with is far from what I would like it to be. But anyway, here's the moon, and yeah, well, you cannot even see it. Laocoon. This is an important one right on the moon, and for this one, I mean, if you've looked at previous videos, you'll know that I always, at some point, I start talking about a big book written by a Dutch astrologer called Benjamin Adema, and he really helps me to fill in the blanks. He had this huge book with almost 1,000 asteroids he's published a few years ago, and that really kickstarted my journey with asteroids. Laocoon is one where I really rely on Benjamin Adema's meaning that he gives here. And what he says is it reminds him of the story of Job in the Bible. And if you remember, Job was the one who got angry with God because he said, you've given me such a shitty deal. This cannot be true. This cannot be real. What kind of crap are you trying to sell me? And a similar kind of vibe you get from Laocoon, where someone might start to think this cannot be right. There must be a flaw in creation, in the way things are, because this is just too terrible. And that I could really imagine that being the case with Frida Kahlo. Proserpina, we've seen that in previous videos a lot, is a goddess of the underworld in some sense, but I mean, it's a bit more complicated than that. Proserpina, Persephone is also a goddess who points to having to take a break, having to recharge your batteries, and it can also just be the young maiden. So all these meanings are correct in relation to the moon. Although, yeah, well, I see a pattern here, but you shouldn't read too much into it. Make is about modern technology, and I relate. I mean, it is about making stuff using technology, and I really see this one as all the techniques and tricks that the medical profession tried on Frida Kahlo to keep her in one piece. And that was, I mean, it's conjunct the moon. It was, you should also think about all these contraptions around her bed and so on to make her whole again. It's a bit dramatic place of Make here. And then we get to the mid-heaven, which is also quite interesting. Toastmasters here is about people who express their opinions very clearly, and that's definitely something that Frida Kahlo did when she was going on about communism and a revolutionary, like I said. That's definitely an important part of Frida Kahlo. Aurora and Young are things that are much more connected with the idea of having energy left to fight and to recuperate from this horrible accident. And then Cube. Every time you see a name with lots of numbers in it, it is also something that I find in Benjamin Adema's big book. And in the case of this one, this cubewano is the technical term, I just call them cubes. This one is about the need for a soulmate, according to Benjamin Adema. And that is, of course, very obvious if you look at the kind of a relation that Frida Kahlo had with Diego Rivera. Then, if you know from Greek mythology, the Moira is the three goddesses who determine how long people live. Lachesis is the second Moira. She allots the time that someone has to live, and that one is conjunct Saturn. I think this is very much about the accident. That's why it has the red color, and it's saying that I mean, if we go again to the image of Dryope, the tree that is the person that is slowly turning into an immovable tree, then Lachesis would be the time that is needed to make this process, the time needed for this process to be finished. And the end would be the third Moira would be Atropos, which is Greek for death. But this is like the time that has been allotted to Frida Kahlo, the length of her days. And well, Saturn is counting, good old Father Time is counting the days, so to speak. Here you see some more red color, and Bruch, that is German for it could be a broken bone, that could be a Bruch. You also see here incidentia, and this literally means accident. And where is it? Well, on the south node, but right on it. So that's these nodes, the asteroids that you find on nodes are very karmic usually, and this is a very good example of it. So we have Bruch there breaking, we have the accident, and we have this Damocleid. I have to check that because I don't know them all from the top of my head. It is actually, this Damocleid has the same idea as what I was just pointing to here, this Laocoon on the moon. If you remember, I said it has to do with the idea of Job and the idea of a mistake made by the creator. Like no one should have that much bad luck, so to speak. A mistake is you experience creation as flawed. And that same theme is from Laocoon is also in this nameless asteroid. This asteroid does not have a name, it only has a number. Then conjunct Mars, we find Bruch, which is very close to Bruch. So this is again the theme of breaking. Persephone is the sister asteroid, I could say. Proserpina here is exactly the same goddess as Persephone, so we find the two themes on the moon that are doubled. One here, this Damocleid, and another one, Persephone. Persephone is always pointing to the underworld, the realm of the dead. These blue ones are like the antidote for this red stuff. The red stuff has to do with the accident. The blue stuff here has to do with the attitude that you need to make something of your life in spite of all this bad luck. And this is very simple points to someone who is a boss. And vincere, that has, if you know a bit of Latin languages, you will see in this word the idea of victory, of conquering, of winning, wanting to win. So that's there too. One more. Quick look at the ascendant. And this will make clear why I said that I think that the birth time is correct, because this is a very gruesome detail. Bus. I mean, the traffic accident was Frida Kahlo was riding in a bus, and that went into a streetcar, and that's when her life was suddenly turned around. And the meaning of having a certain setback at a certain moment, a sudden setback in your life, that is represented by this one, Aditi. Requiem is you can see that. I mean, Requiem. If you know about Catholic culture, you know this word. It has to do with funerals and so on. But you can also say that it is a reminder of death that is coming. In the case of Frida Kahlo, sooner than for most, because she died when she was 47, I think. Then Lorelei and Sirene. I think this is remarkable because these two are also they are related in the sense that the Lorelei is a siren, and here we see siren. So that is more saying something about the attractiveness of Frida, and her ability to attract men. There's probably also a bit of a muse there. And funny thing is that Cyrene is also on the son of Madonna. I thought that was remarkable. So I think that's enough. Oh no, one more. Lupo here, talking about Madonna. Lupo is another one that is connecting Madonna and Frida Kahlo. And with Lupo, the first word you should think of is freedom, love of freedom. And the second thing you should think of is people who go exactly their own way, who don't really care about what you think. They go their own way in the name of freedom. There's a bit of a lone wolf there, but not so much a lonely wolf, more someone who finds their own road, their own path. Okay, this will be a bit like disaster tourism, I'm afraid, but well, a disaster happened, and I think we need to take a look at it. It is a bit like in the previous episode when I looked at Vincent van Gogh and that time when he cut off his ear, and I demonstrated how you go about finding stuff like that in a chart. You look for anything that could resemble an ear or a knife, and you line it all up and you get a picture. Now, in this case, it was a traffic accident with a bus. Frida was in a bus, and I already showed you that the asteroid named Bus is at the ascendant in the birth chart of Frida Kahlo. And by the way, it's amazing how many descriptive asteroid names there actually are. I mean, Bus. Who would have guessed that there is an asteroid Bus? Yes, there is one. But what's more, it has very specific messages in certain charts. Bus, not so much in this one, but bus here, this word ends on an S. But if you say, okay, let's not make this too difficult and agree that buzz is quite close to bus, then here we have the north node, and exactly conjunct the north node we have buzzy. Well, for me that's close enough. I can understand if people say this is going too far, but I think this is good enough, and the conjunction is perfectly exact. There are more of these asteroid names that end on a Z here, on a Z, 230, and it's not really conjunct Neptune, but it's quite close. It is, however, exactly conjunct Frida, which is again telling. And actually, this is a bit tasteless maybe, but Buzz, Frida, and Brecher, which means breaker, this says the bus breaks Frida. That's literally what it says here. Bus breaks Frida on the day that she had the accident. This was in the sky. Another all these blue ones is what I think related to a bus, and we have another one here that is right in between the Sun and Mars, and yeah, well, that is also, of course, a conjunction that can point to these types of accidents. Brecht is again a form of breaking, and it is very close to asteroid Frida Kahlo. And here another break, exactly conjunct Saturn. Bum, just like Tyson, is more the impact of a very hard punch that you suddenly get. And Bum is actually conjunct the galactic center. We have here Tyson, which is a very similar energy, and that is opposite Freyja. These bomb asteroids are also related to that idea of getting a really hard punch. There's a lot going on, I think. I mean, a lot of bus stuff, a lot of breaking stuff related to Frida. So I don't want to, like I said, it shouldn't be disaster tourism, but you can see here's this one is important, of course, because this one is also on the south node of Frida Kahlo's birth chart, and the sun is at 246, and this one is at 6. Well, it's not that close, but a lot of people would say that would be close enough. It's and at any rate, it is also very close. It says again here it is conjunct with Brecht, which is about breaking, and yeah, well, this is saying a lot, this part. Enough about the accident. I was just talking about the conjunction between Venus and Pluto in the birth chart of Frida Kahlo, and I was suggesting that this points to relationships with a lot of drama in it, and all this drama was definitely in the relationship of Frida Kahlo and her, yeah, how should I call it, her fat husband Diego Rivera. It's almost a Beauty and the Beast, these two. It's quite an odd couple. Both painters, and they couldn't live with each other, not without each other. Drama. They married twice. And I'm going to show you the charts for both marriages. When you think marriage and you look at asteroid astrology, there's no doubt that you have to look at asteroid Juno, and also the Greek counterpart Hera. Their meaning is almost the same. They are, let me point them out to you. They are here. By the way, the date is 21st of September 1929. So this is the date of the first marriage of Diego Rivera and Frida Kahlo. I have to say something. I mean, Guillermo, who is the father of Frida Kahlo, she said when Diego asked Guillermo, "Can I marry your daughter?" Guillermo said, "Well, keep in mind that she is continuously needs to be in the hospital for new operations and so on." And then he had the nerve to say, "And she is not pretty. But if you think you can handle that, you can marry my daughter." That is actually what he said. Found that quite amazing. So we have here Guillermo, Father Kahlo. Yeah, it's conjunct Mars, but it's not telling me anything. What I think is very, very remarkable, just in the, not that I'm, yeah, it's difficult to give this, give a good meaning to this, but we have Rivera here conjunct both Saturn and the center of the galaxy on the day of their marriage, and yeah, well, that's a very heavy conjunction. It says something about Frida looking at Diego as a kind of a divine creature, actually, combined with the father figure kind of stuff, the restriction kind of stuff that comes with Saturn. It's an odd conjunction. Not really a marriage conjunction. What do we have here? Hera. It is actually square Diego. So we have here Diego, and we have here Hera, which is pretty much the same as Juno, and there's a square there. What else do we have? we have Chiron, which is a lot about suffering and pain. So, of course, it's an important asteroid in Frida Kahlo's chart. And it is actually conjunct the North Node. It's remarkable again. And then, if you look here, Christine, which is the name of Frida Kahlo's sister, Christina, it makes a trine to this North Node Chiron conjunction, and then a sextile to the South Node. So Christina has an important place here, connected to Chiron. And what this is pointing towards is that one thing that happened in the relationship of Frida and Diego, that there were always affairs and stuff and fights and all that kind of stuff. But the worst blow for Frida was the moment when Diego had an affair with her sister, Christina. That was really devastating and also crippling, literally crippling for Frida. And you see something of that already here on the day of the marriage. This important place of Christina trining Chiron on the North Node. I think that's an ominous sign, and it also gives this weird conjunction. It gives it even a less festive flavor. I mean, it's not a great birthday party that you see here. There is stuff going on. I mean, Frida is conjunct Mercury, which means that everybody was talking about it. This is, yeah, I don't know, I could say cute, but maybe that is not the right word. Mathilde, the name of Frida's mother, conjunct Frida Kahlo. I think she was probably very happy, or, well, I'm not sure. I'm just pointing it out. To me, the most salient detail here is the place of Frida's sister in the chart for the marriage, for the first marriage. Then we have the second marriage, and this took place a little more than 10 years later, on the 8th of December 1940. A lot had happened already in the relationship between Frida and Diego, and they decided that they could not live without each other and they had to marry again. Which is, of course, a very special thing. And I have to admit, Mr. Rivera is again doing some impressive stuff here. We see Diego exactly conjunct Pluto, with Chiron very, very close. Let's see, this is 10, 10. And yeah, Chiron and Pluto and Diego. I mean, it was not an easy ride for Frida, this marriage. And you see some of that here. And Mr. Rivera is even conjunct Neptune. So you can connect that to smoke and mirrors, I'm not sure. Then again, Frida also joining the conjunction party here, and conjunct Venus, which is good. And we even see that Venus is trining Hera. So finally, some positive stuff here. We see Hera squaring Friden, but more importantly, because there is a conjunction here, trining Frida and Venus, with Freyja also in the neighborhood, and this is a positive aspect. I think that's enough. So what I would say is that the role of Juno, I mean, Juno is here trining this conjunction. That is certainly true, but in the marriages of Frida Kahlo to Diego Rivera, I don't think that the important place is taken by Hera and Juno. I think in the first one, the important place is taken by her sister Christina, and this is like, I don't know, it's just something that's these two had to do, and Mr. Diego Rivera certainly knows to pick his dates for a marriage. I have to say that. I want to do a quick look at the day that Frida Kahlo died. Tragic event after a tragic life, you could say. It's there's really only one thing that I want to point out, and that is the place of Dryope. Now look at this. Whoops, come on. Dryope, 26, 23, 26, 28. This means that it is exactly conjunct the sun. And if you remember, Dryope is the woman who turned into a tree. Remember from the first from the birth chart. So on the day Frida was born, it was exactly conjunct sun, and on the day Frida died, it was again exactly conjunct sun. And this is where things get where you could start a whole philosophical talk about fate. I'm not going to talk about free will, but just fate. This seems very fated, and I think this is both the strength of asteroid astrology, and it is probably also what scares people. Because if I'm being completely honest for a moment, I mean a lot of astrology is about talking about signs and interpreting signs and blah 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 blah. But this is really this is much more exact stuff, and at the end of the day, it's creepy. It is scary. So it's just a quick rant to say asteroid astrology is a bit scarier, folks, and this is a good example of that. And I mean, it reminds me of other things as well. Like in the previous episode with Vincent van Gogh, we had this idea of cypress trees, and Vincent associated the cypress with graveyards. And what do you know? There was a cypress asteroid on the asteroid Vincent van Gogh on the day that he died, and I interpreted that as the universe, so to speak, planting a cypress tree on the grave of Vincent van Gogh, which I think is very beautiful. And here we again have a tree planted on a grave, so to speak, of another famous painter who, I mean, if you think about the differences and the similarities between Van Gogh and Frida Kahlo, which is something I've been thinking about, I think Frida was the strong one. Vincent was more the victim, but also a bit of a whiner. That was actually one of his asteroids, whiner. And with Frida, I get very little of this whining vibe. She was a really strong woman, and she had this cross to bear, this Dryope. That was, and that's why also you get these asteroids that say like, hey, there's something wrong with creation. No one can give me this much bad luck. Well, it happened to Frida, and she carried that cross. So that's what you. That's my story for asteroid Dryope. You could say that the process was finalized in this moment. That the woman, the metamorphosis from woman to immovable tree has taken place completely. There's some more stuff going on, but it all pales in comparison to this one. I mean, we have Freyja here, and a conjunction with Orpheus, who is, as it were, bringing her to the underworld, or coming from the underworld to take her, anything like that. You can say. Pyramus is one of the usual suspects, heavily aspected here, opposite Pluto. Thisbe, Grantor, Eurydice, and this is Orcus, actually, Orcus Font. Atropos, Lachesis, they are all implied in some way, but the big story is Dryope. That's why this is, I mean, the reason that I say this is the most important asteroid for Frida Kahlo in general is because it is both conjunct the Sun at her birth and at her death, and that is as symbolic and specific as it gets in asteroid astrology, and it is a bit creepy. I want to finish this video on a positive note because Frida Kahlo is still alive, and Madonna is definitely one of the people who is keeping that flame burning. And in the description of this video, I will put a link to a concert, a Madonna concert in 2016, Mexico City, 6th and 7th of January, where Frida Kahlo, so to speak, is on stage together with Madonna. It's beautiful. I will look at that chart in a moment, but first I want to have a quick look at Madonna's chart. If you remember, there were she has a few personal asteroids. I pointed out earlier this one, Ciccone, which is officially the Madonna asteroid, named after this one, Madonna. It sounds horrible, but as you can see, it is very active. It is conjunct her Saturn. And then we have quite close to the Sun, not really there, but quite close to the Sun, the asteroid I mentioned earlier, Ciccone, which is almost Ciccone, except that the I and the E have swapped places. So what makes Madonna tick? Well, we look at the Sun, and we look for important deities on the Sun, and otherwise the second thing I do is look for important people on the Sun. We find one Frida exactly on the Sun. This is not the strongest Frida asteroid, but there's one here, so it's definitely there. Also Freyja quite close, 25, which is, a lot of people would say that is within range. But what makes Madonna tick? Well, I would say that Lupo is important for her. I've explained that one before. I think Cyrene is interesting. I think Daedalus is very interesting. That points to a huge creative reservoir. I mean, Madonna is one of the most creative female artists ever, and in music. And Daedalus is responsible for a lot of her creative juices. And then Messalina is that points to a Roman empress who had a name for being having a very healthy sexual appetite. Slutty, you could say. I don't want to call Madonna a slut, not at all, but of course she plays with that idea. And this is where it comes from. That is definitely, that is certain. So if I would do a deep dive here, I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out that Messalina would be the most important Madonna asteroid, because it combines an empress with that very healthy sexual appetite. Something like that. So that gives you some idea of, and this one is just funny. I mean, there are so many asteroids, about 22 or 23,000 that I look at, and sometimes suddenly you get a moment where a asteroid reveals its meaning by just being somewhere at some place. I suddenly read this word as "will kick ya," will give you a kick. Make of that what you want. I thought it was hilarious. There's also stuff that is not so hilarious in Madonna's chart. I saw, again, just like in Frida Kahlo's chart, I saw a very important place for incidentia, accident. And I think my guess would be, look here, it's opposite Pluto. My guess would be that this is a well-known fact from Madonna's biography. She was raped, and I think incidentia is pointing to that moment. That is one of the things she has in common in her chart. Then, of of course, it is interesting to look at the place of Frida Kahlo in her chart. You see it here quite close to Saturn, which is very much a Madonna planet because of the hard work. I mean, James Brown worked hard, but I would say I wouldn't be surprised if Madonna worked harder than James Brown. They are at least equally hardworking, but Madonna is probably more hardworking, and she's been at it for a longer time. I mean, 5 decades of hits is no one has ever done that before, I think. So that's this Madonna here, right here on Saturn, working very hard. And I get the feeling that Frida Kahlo is a bit of an inspiration there, because Industria is also about working hard and about an unbreakable spirit. And we see those things together there, with Selkut more pointing toward magical inspiration, something like that. But I would say that Frida Kahlo gives her the inspiration to work hard in the face of adversity, something like that. Nefertiti, we see a lot of queens. Ciccone. This one is interesting. Aletheia is about seeking truth, and that is also, I mean, if you think of Frida Kahlo as a revolutionary, she was fighting for. She was a feminist. Madonna is a feminist. Frida Kahlo was a communist. I have my doubts about that, but I mean, it's logical. She grew up during the Mexican Revolution, so it is completely natural for her to be a communist. But I don't know how deep that went. But anyway, this whole seeking for meaning in the bigger picture of how the world is run. You see that with Madonna, and if you look at Ciccone and Aletheia is about finding truth, seeking for truth, and I think that's a strong impetus in Madonna's work, in everything she does. Okay, I've changed the chart. The colors and the names of the asteroids are exactly the same, but now we are again looking at the birth chart of Frida Kahlo. And I just want to remind you the places of Madonna. We've seen this one already. Ciccone on the North Node, really saying that Madonna will keep the heritage alive. You know, she owns quite a few paintings of Frida Kahlo. She puts her in her show, and it's just an example for Madonna. But she also uses Frida Kahlo was a style icon, also fashion, very, very aware of how she used her clothes to create an image. There's a lot of similarities there. So, once again, Madonna on the North Node of Frida Kahlo's birth chart, and then we see stuff like Messalina, Aletheia, Daedalus, which are Madonna asteroids. Not really in a important place, but I want to point out something else, and that to me personal, is more important than all these asteroids that you see here that are not really working. What is working is Métis. Now Métis, if you really want to get to the heart of what Métis is, then you should read the book Reality by Peter Kingsley. He explains it much more eloquent than I could ever try to do. But what is Métis? It is a quality that certain people have. There's a bit of savoir-faire in it, the French expression for knowing how to behave yourself. But more than that, it is knowing how to survive in life, basically, how to get around, how to get your things, how to get things done, how to communicate to the gods, how to solve riddles, how to get out of trouble, how to stay out of trouble, how to run your life in a way that people say, okay, this person knows what life is about. This person has métis. You have métis. You know how to do things, how to behave, how to solve problems. That is métis. And I think that the conjunction of métis and Chicone in the birth chart of Frida Kahlo is really a really nice compliment, you could say, for Madonna. She knows how to get around, how to do her stuff. There's not much more, but this is more than enough. I was pleasantly surprised by this one. Métis is a very important thing to have. And then finally, to just underline a little bit more that there is really a link between a link in the sky between Frida Kahlo and Madonna. This video that I told you about, that performance that took place in Mexico City, well, this is the date, 6th of January 2016. You should really check out the video. And here we have Frida Kahlo. And if I look at the aspects, I get a trine to a conjunction of Uranus and Chicone. So Frida Kahlo, here is Chicone, here is Uranus, and there's a big fat trine going on there. And that basically is more than enough evidence. Quite often you have this type of event and you don't find any evidence for it, so to speak. But this is the kind of evidence that you would like to see for such an event. There's more going on, but you know, it is not so important to try to attach meaning to every little thing that is going on. This is a very cute detail, however. Métis is conjunct the south node. It's almost like, if you remember, this was also important in Frida Kahlo's birth chart. So you could say Métis here on the south node is Frida Kahlo saying, you're going. When I was doing a little bit of research for this video, I bumped into a completely new phenomenon for me. It's a certain type of people who do tarot readings to find out what is going on in the life of celebrities. And especially in the case of Madonna, I'm talking about, not so much in the case of Frida Kahlo. But as this video is being recorded, it is now June of 2023. Madonna is once again causing some commotion, as she has been doing throughout the whole of her career, really literally from the start. So nothing new at all going on there. But still, people are worried about what turn her career is taking, and has she had too many facelifts, yes or no? Has she lost it, yes or no? It's really funny to see, especially these tarot readers who try to find out. And I mean, you should really type in tarot and Madonna right now at this point in time. I'm not sure what you will get in a year. But right now you will get people who are frantically shuffling their cards, going chuk 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 chuk, and they're telling the audience, looking at the camera, telling the audience everything they think is wrong with Madonna, and then they go, oh, okay, I put down 3 cards, or they put down much more cards and say, you see, there, that's what I told you. She's whatever negativity they want to project on Madonna is what you get in those videos. And it says a lot about how certain people handle cards, you know, how you can use and misuse cards. So that emulate this process, but do it in my own way with my own deck. And I mean, I saw a few pictures of Madonna that looked extremely good, and I saw a few that looked not so good. I think it's just she's almost at the age that in the Netherlands you would get your pension, and she still looks fantastic, but she has to be much more careful about the cameras and the lighting to convince everyone that she still looks good. So she just has to do more, even harder work, I'm afraid, at this age. And well, I was getting interested, so I pulled these 3 cards. How's Madonna doing? And indeed, you see, I mean, it is a. Let's start with the idea that this is a beautiful spread. There's this wonderful visual poetry going on here with the vertical lines, but much more with the third eye and the sun here through. This is. What's it called? Sorry, Stonehenge. I don't know how I could forget that, but I forget all kinds of things. What is going on here? Well, this is clearly a sign of a burnout, but this is the main one. I mean, there is a symmetry in this spread. These two are complementing each other, and this is the center of the spread. This is a so-called open reading, where you just put down 3 cards and you just see what you get. Open reading. I've done a video on open readings, actually. No one's watched it, but it's there. So these two are complementing each other, and this is the main theme. And what this is saying is that Madonna is going through a spiritual phase, which is very much like her. Ever since she got into the Kabbalah thing, it was clear that she has real qualities in the spiritual realm. I did not look at that in her chart, but it's clear that it's not fake. It's not like all these artists who suddenly turn to Jesus. It's with her, it's much more authentic. And this one is saying that she needs to do a spiritual replenish, or what is the word, to get those spiritual energies aligned in a proper way. I think alignment is what you see here. So if she does this right, we will go from this and this will merge into this, and everything will be okay for Madonna. I think this points to a spiritual rebirth. I definitely think she's capable of that. But this is also, of course, a warning sign that she cannot keep touring in her 80s, probably, because I think the greatest Madonna quote is that the most controversial thing she's ever done is staying around, despite of her age. And well, if you're 64, like in the famous Beatles tune, things like this can happen. And that's something she will have to face, and then it will all be okay, I'm sure. That's it for this video. I think Madonna is keeping the flame alive, the Frida Kahlo flame. Very, very happy she does that. And I think I've done enough of all these detailed analysis of birth charts for now. I've done 4, Carl Jung, Eva Braun, Vincent van Gogh, and then the second painter, Frida Kahlo. Right now I will switch to a completely different subject. In the next video I think I will do Bitcoin, because I've gone quite deep into Bitcoin. I've tried to predict Bitcoin price using cards. Got quite a few people interested on Twitter doing that. I also stopped it again. But anyway, Bitcoin is a subject that interests me, and there's a lot to talk about when it comes to Bitcoin and asteroids. So I think I will do that in my next video. I'll see you then.